My name is Dr. Brandi Cruz, and I teach dual enrollment calculus and algebra 2 regular and honors here at Collierville High School. My classes are very large. I usually have 32 to 35 students per class. But one thing I do at the beginning of every year is I make them write a note to me. This tells me a little bit about them that will help me teach them. The notes range from anything from, hey, I'm nearsighted, I need to sit at the front of the room, to I have severe ADHD, to my parents are going through a divorce and I'm depressed. These notes are very personal, and I read them and I value them. I think moving forward, I know about my students, and it helps me teach them because that little bit of tidbit they revealed to me at the beginning of the year. But besides that, I truly get to know my kids. That is one thing everybody says about me, is I will take the time to engage with my students and get to know them on a personal level. And I think once I know them on that personal level, I can bring their likes and their loves into my lessons. So there's a lot of lessons in calculus that I think are just really exhilarating, but Algebra 2 is a class that's mandatory in the state of Tennessee, so every student has to take it. So I'm going to focus on that, and the lesson is quadratic formulas and the quadratic functions. And so I love teaching quadratic functions because it's so real life applicable. And I teach it to where you can see the real life applications with it. You can see how it follows them to different subject matters. It follows them to their future careers potentially, and it really has meaning beyond my classroom. And I think the kids really get engaged with that lesson, and because they're 12th graders, some 10th graders, a light bulb goes off. And finally they realize, well, maybe I will use math after I graduate. Every lesson I teach, I have an example of how they will use this later on in life. Either I will have it in their college major, in a class they have to take their senior year of high school, or in jobs they may potentially have. So that's one thing I do for every single lesson I teach. One thing I did this year is once I realized that I had a lot of kids this year, I had a lot of kids who were not going to go to college. They said at the beginning of the year, they told me, I want to be a welder, I want to be something that is a trade school, and that's perfectly fine. And they thought that was an excuse to disengage from my lesson. They thought that not going to college was a reason just to sit back and not have to really entertain what I was doing because they didn't think they needed it. So what I did was I held a school-wide PD where I asked other teachers to come in and tell me how they could use some of my lessons in their own classroom. So I had our FFA, Mr. Sawyer, said, I'm building a goat pen outside. We need math for that. Goat pens, you don't need a college degree to build a goat pen. So he said, hey, in algebra, you could tell them I have this much fence, this much money. How much room do I have? I brought that lesson to my students and they're like, we love Mr. Sawyer. We would love to help him. You don't need a college degree for that. So I utilized the whole school. I asked for their help. The physics teacher came in clutch, giving me examples to help him with physics, with trajectory. He had a potato launcher where they shot a potato in the air, and it was like, how far does the potato go? You don't need a college education for that. The kids were so engaged. So by really asking the other teachers outside of math for help, I was able to really pique the non-college goers' interest and let them know that math is for everybody, not just for people who are getting their 4-year degree eventually. If I have a class that's full of football players, well, then when I do quadratic equations, you bet we talk about football. We will go outside and throw a football, and we will talk about the trajectory, the height, the maximum height, and if you can determine the distance of the ball based on that maximum height. So bringing in sports really engages those athletes, because that's all sports: baseball, tennis, golf, football uses quadratic equations. But even if they're not athletes, you can still learn about them and realize what aspect of what you're teaching will impact them and affect them. And I think that makes them engage once they realize you care enough to learn about them and then involve it in the lesson you're teaching. So my biggest belief, and this is why I became a math teacher, is I think everybody can learn math. I hate the mindset of, well, my mom didn't like math, so I don't have to like math. Or I'm not a math person. I hate hearing that because I think we are all deep down math people. We're just scared of it, or it got hard and we gave up. So my belief is that everybody can do math, anybody. So in my classroom, I really instill a love of math in my kids. I bring energy into every day that I teach. I bring people from the real world in. I bring examples from the real world in and show them that math is just not a foreign language to them. Math is something obtainable, it's fun, and it can be enjoyable in the right situations. And I don't leave my classroom until I know the kids have learned and enjoyed their learning every single day. So my belief is you can learn. My belief is that you can enjoy it. You just need to be in the right mindset. You just need to have the right real world examples. And with those, math is learnable and fun.